Hello, guys, and I am so excited. Finally, the friends, family, and returning guest episode. And to kick this one off, I have one of my best friends. I think we started becoming close in my seventh grade year, and we were pretty much inseparable all the way up until about my junior year in high school. So, Rebecca McFadden, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here and excited to try this podcast thing.
So Rebecca is like many of my friends and family who I dragged to come on the show, and she's never been on a podcast before. So this is her first. So I'm really excited that I was the first person that she decided to go on a show with, and I bet I will not be the last. I bet you'll go on more podcasts once you see how fun these are. So in this episode, as I said, we're sitting down with Rebecca McFadden. She is a multi-talented creative who has spent her life pursuing her passions in art, design, and self expression. From her early days sketching animals in elaborate outfits to becoming the founder of Fresh Pointe Studio, her journey is one of resilience, reinvention, and staying true to her values. And today we're going to talk about her early inspirations growing up in Columbus, Ohio, where I was also born and raised. As the oldest of three sisters, she discovered her love for art at age 5. With the support of her parents, she earned a scholarship to Saturday morning art school at the Columbus College of Art and Design, which set the stage for her creative path. Finding her voice in fashion design, her education at Kent State's Fashion Design School, and her passion for knitwear shaped her artistic identity, along with the challenges of working 2 jobs to fund her education. And then she went off to New York City, to the fashion capital of the world, working for private label companies and experiencing the highs and lows of the industry, and starting her own designing co-op in Norwalk, Connecticut. So today we'll also talk about how she worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, Lands' End, and traveled the world, and then made a pivot where motherhood, life priorities, and the global pandemic inspired her to change course and leading to her where she is today, which is the founding of Fresh Pointe Studios, where she designs environments that inspire and delight. Welcome again, Rebecca.
Thank you.
So first off, I usually always ask my podcast guests, what inspired you to join the military? So that will not be your question.
Oh, what was kind of funny is some people asked, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you served in the military." I was like, "No, I did not."
No. You are one of my friends from so forever ago. So I just knew that I had to bring you to my show and to my audience, and I thought that we would love to meet you. So first off, what was it, do you think, growing up about art that inspired you? Because you were always drawn to artistic endeavors. And so I want to know sort of why.
Hmm. I don't know. I think it just always felt natural. Like it was just something I loved doing, and it was kind of like my happy place. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just what made me happy and where I felt, most fulfilled, I guess, even I didn't even know what that word meant as a kid, but
Right.
yeah, I just
And you
it was
started off
fun.
painting, right? If I remember correctly.
No, I mean, I started really, I did lots of everything,
No,
but
you drew. Okay.
drawing was kind of more my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Still now I think even though I do paint, drawing, I think I'm better at drawing, I would
Right.
say, but
Right. And tell me a little bit about sort of the early start of, okay, I draw now. I do some of this art as a child, but how did you make that transition to say I'm going to go into a creative endeavor uh, within my undergraduate for college?
well, I mean, I think also my parents were very supportive. They were supportive of all three of us, because my sisters are also in creative fields, and so they submitted my work to CCAD, Saturday Morning Art School, and I got a scholarship to that while I was still in grade school, in high school. So I think that was part of it, and then I don't know, it was just like that's what I want to do.
Right.
I knew, like, I didn't figure out fashion until kind of like later in high school, but I always knew I wanted to do something in a creative field.
What was it about fashion that drew you to wanting to do that?
Well, I think I love the idea that that art can be functional and also like kind of universal. I mean, like everyone wears clothes. You have to wear clothes. So
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
in most of the world,
Right.
maybe maybe not everywhere, but um like so I love that it's kind of like a universal, it's a way of self-expression. Um and like you can see other people like wearing something that you designed. Like I mean it was, you know, it's so cool. Um and a way of like sort of almost like through your, you know, through my creative endeavor, like a way to connect with people. So
Right, right. And I think that it's also something that, a lot of people just don't think about. Like, they don't think about the where we get our clothes. I remember one time we sat down for, dinner, and you were telling me about, like, the business of design and the business
mhm.
of clothing, and I didn't understand any of that. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of what you learned about the industry, like some of your takeaways, while you were working there?
um well, I mean it like anything, it is a business. So um and it is about the end user and the customer. So you always have to kind of think like, you know, who is our customer, what's important to them, um, you know, how much money do they make, where do they live, what do they like to do, like what's their lifestyle, like this is whole like every company. I mean, with any product, you think like who is the end user, what's their
Mhm,
lifestyle, um, you know, what's important to them. So figuring that out. Um, and then I mean the whole process, it, you know, you start with this big concept presentation. Well, if you work in a larger company, there's like a big concept presentation. You have to like sell your ideas to like, you know, the CEO and all the executives and all the people who like make the decisions. um,
mhm.
and then after that, then you kind of go into the you know, making the sauce.
Right, right.
But yeah, everything has to get approved, and then you know, and things change along the way. And there was a lot of we traveled a lot because, you know, like most things, especially clothing, is made in other countries, not here.
Right.
So there was a lot of overseas travel for, you know, to work with vendors, but also like inspiration. We would, you know, travel to Europe because, you know, trends tend to start there first. So we would travel to Europe and sometimes even like Montreal, Canada, for inspiration. Um, and always New York, because even, you know, when I worked for companies that were in the Midwest, we would always travel to New York as well for inspiration, um, just to kind
Yeah.
of know what's going on in the world.
Right, and it's definitely like an industry that's just constantly changing, and
Mhm.
constantly you have to stay on top of, like, what people are interested in, what they're wearing. I remember when you and I used to talk about it, I would think to myself, "God, that's gotta be so hard," because it's such a specialized field. And so everybody has an opinion probably
Oh
on
yeah.
what they consider to be the proper design or the right look. And so I would think that it's one of those types of fields where you have to be very collaborative with your teammates and the people around you. And what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in that industry?
Um, hmm. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, the number of opinions and change, um, because especially when you work for larger companies, there's lots of levels. So you know, you start going one direction, or but the other thing too, sometimes it's not just someone's opinion that changes. It's like you learn, oh well, this didn't work, you know, a certain thing isn't selling, so you got to
Oh,
pivot and
yeah,
kind of
that's true. Yep.
react to the market. So it wasn't
Mhm.
always just like, you know, people's you know, the your boss or whoever's opinion. Some of it was reacting to the market. um and it is like it definitely it took a village to, like, you think like a t-shirt, like the life cycle of that, like because there's a design team, there's a technical design team, there's the production people who like have to, like, you know, source the fabric and the thread and the buttons and whatever. Um, and and then there's the factory, the people that make it, and then it gets put on a boat and comes over here. So it's like it's it's a lot. It touches
It
a lot
touches
of people.
so many people in so many locations to get to the end user, and people don't really think about that when they're wearing a sweater or they have some sort of a design. They're not really thinking about like where that clothing is made. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the ways that you guys would try to source ethically? Because people always want to know, like, oh, is my clothing coming from a good place?
I mean, I think the industry as a whole has made a lot of strides in that direction. Um, I think there's definitely a ton of room for improvement.
Of course.
And to be very transparent, one of the reasons I changed careers was partially because of the impact. Like denim is I don't know controversial, but like
Right.
denim is one of the biggest polluters of the planet.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I actually try to like buy pre-owned clothing,
Yeah.
if at all possible now in my life. And there's places you can get like really high quality, pre-owned clothes. So it's not always Goodwill, although you can find stuff like stuff at Goodwill, but like there's other like websites and um, or just buying things that last,
Right.
like buying things that you can wear for 10, 15, whatever,
I think there's
20
such a
years.
wonderful market in getting things that are gently used or can have a second life. I mean, most all of our furniture we buy is used. We don't ever buy new furniture or new desks or any of these things. It's all things that we've looked for online and got secondhand. And I do think that there's so much value in doing that because you are doing your part, in my view, to eliminate some of that footprint and that waste in the world. But what was it that was going on in your life when, okay, you're in the fashion industry and you're going down this path and all of a sudden you make this just drastic pivot? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, one of the things about the fashion industry is, and like anyone who's ever worked in the fashion industry, you've been laid off, like, because it's very fast moving. It's, like sales aren't great. We downsize, we get rid of this brand, we whatever. So like most people in fashion have been laid off multiple times. It's just part of the
Part of the
industry.
business. Yeah.
So it's just part of how it works. So that was kind of, I mean, I had thought I had been wanting to kind of do something else, or I wasn't feeling like I was in the right place for my life priorities. Like, being a mom, I loved traveling like in my 20s and 30s, and before I had kids, it was awesome. Like
Hmm.
loved it, absolutely loved it. And I loved, seeing different cultures and meeting new people and learning about different cultures. But like it got to a point in my life where I'm like, I feel like I'm missing, missing out on time with my kids and Jim. And so I had wanted to do something different. I've always loved, and my favorite part of what we did in fashion was when we got the rooms ready for the big presentations, because it was like, kind of like um, creating this visual kind of environment that, to wow people. And so I knew I wanted to do something in interiors, but I was like, to be very honest, I was scared
Yeah.
to change careers. So I would say like my being, it was in the middle of COVID. So, lots of companies were uh, downsizing. And yeah, so I think in a way in my life, it was actually a really great thing that happened. Because I was working for Land's End at the time, got laid off. And yeah, and like spent the summer hanging out with my kids and taking them to swim lessons, and
Right.
like it was pretty awesome. And yeah, and then we also, my family's in Columbus, and so I wanted them, my sister has kids similar age to mine, and I wanted them to have relationships with their cousins and, and their aunts, and my parents both live here. So yeah, so we decided to come back to Columbus. And yeah, and I actually and I worked for California Closets as well. And that was kind of it was funny. I actually, because I wanted to check out the company, so I like made an appointment in Madison. We lived in Wisconsin, and I made an appointment and met with the designer for California Closets, and I was like, I was asking her a ton of questions about why she liked it, and she's like, "Why is this girl asking me all these questions?"
Right. Like she doesn't just want a closet built.
But yeah, but I was like, and I was very impressed by her, and like just I don't know, like it was a very positive experience. So I was like, all right, like I think I could do that, and yeah, and so I pursued.
Wow. That just shows you like the power of like that first person in the door and how much that means for where you wind up. Like sometimes like that, like what if that person
Yeah,
wasn't so helpful or you didn't see
yeah,
in her something,
totally. Oh
you
yeah,
know?
and I'd be like, I don't know.
Right, right. And you might have gone down a completely different road in your design life because this was just sort of this encounter that you had. And then it led to you initially working at California, which I know you still do, but that was your first kind of foray away from fashion was okay, now I'm going to go from being a fashion designer to now designing the inside of someone's closet. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, and it's not just closets; it's like every room in the house.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
um, but yeah, no, I mean, and I love it. It's kind of like this is how I sort of see it. Like I don't travel the world anymore, but like even in Columbus, like there are people from like I think the other day just for fun I was like counting how many people I've met from how many different countries like just in the Columbus area, and I think it was like 15 or 16 different countries. Like
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty cool. And it's really interesting because everyone is so different. Um and I think it's like so cool and fascinating to learn about, how different people live, even in the same city, but like
Mhm.
in your home, you know, everyone does things a little bit different. And I love like helping people like make it very individual, whether it's with Fresh Pointe Studio or California Buzz, but like what just make it very individual and feel like their home and like it reflects their story. Because I think it's really powerful when you are in a space and it doesn't feel like you, like it can totally affect, I think, your like mental and your emotional
I
well-being.
agree. I absolutely agree, and I think that people don't put enough importance on the idea of having a space that reflects who they are. Oops, I'm gonna grab this real bit. Give a minute. Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't think that there is enough emphasis on that. I think that at some point people don't put the importance on those kinds of things. They just think that, oh well, I'll just have this desk and this thing, but they don't understand that like that space is saying a lot about who you are. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, sometimes it does because I think sometimes people like their space doesn't do
Mhm.
that, but
Right.
I think it should.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's because sometimes I think people are trying to please other people with what they do to their homes or their space, and I think it's unfortunate, you
Right.
know. Um,
What is it like when you sit down with somebody and you start to design a particular room with them and get like what their vision is or what they want, because they don't really, a lot of times people probably don't even know what they want to see on a wall. They just have their personality and the things that they're into. So how do you dig into that?
It's more about getting to know them and like more big picture, like what's important to them, how do they live, what do they do in the room, like how do they use the space, like what, like, is it your office? Does it need to be a guest room and an office? And I don't know, like, and you need a coffee bar in there, like, um, but like it's more about how they want to feel like in the space. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's helpful because I I know like ways of helping people feel a certain way. I know, the tricks, like,
Mm-hmm.
you want to feel like you're in a cozy room, you can do it in a dark color. And maybe you hang like really beautiful, thick velvet drapes, so
Mm-hmm.
you feel kind of like, also like fabric absorbs sound. So like it won't feel echoey, it'll feel more cozy. There's like actual science like behind it too. Different colors can
Evoke
invoke,
different emotions.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So what I want to do now is I'd like to pull up kind of some of the things that you've been doing with some of your products. So let me move my little camera out of the way so I can hit share. But so this is your Instagram page for Fresh Pointe Studio. So this is where you design some of these spaces. And I just kind of want to go through some of these pictures and kind of talk a little bit about them and sort of what they mean to you.
Well, this is actually in my house.
Wow. Very cool.
But that is it's like our wine bar area, and the other thing I love about what I do too is just meeting different artisans, like
Mm-hmm.
the people who built this wine bar in those drawers. There's some Amish father and son that because my dad was a contractor, so um, he worked with them for I don't even know how many years, 30 some. But yeah, they're like, I mean, they're actual artists. They'll pretty much do anything that you can dream up. Um,
Yeah.
but
But I think it's so cool because I mean, if I see like any of these spaces or I look at some of these pictures, I know that behind each one of these spaces there's a story, There's something there. Some
oh,
of it's oh, go ahead. I'll go
go
back.
back to the one.
This one?
The Nope, back, back. Okay, so this was a client. So that painting of the ballerinas was kind of the inspiration for this powder bathroom. It was like a painting that she had bought for her daughter, and her
Yeah.
kids are now out of the house. So it meant a lot to her, but it was kind of like the inspiration for the color palette. And I developed that technique on the wall. It's kind of like a textural metallic paint, and you like use a special tools anyway.
That's very
But yeah,
cool.
it was this whole kind of inspired by this, painting that meant a lot to her. And so yeah, it
And
was
then it's just kind of built around there, around that. So it's very neat to kind of see some of these. Like, look at that. That's so cool. We're for those of you who are just listening, what we're doing is we're on our Instagram page for Fresh Point Studio, and we're looking at some of the reels and the clips, and that's a really neat one right there with the home.
that was actually for my son's play. That was a prop.
Well, it's still very cool.
Because yeah, we do hand painted murals and things like that as well. Just because there aren't a lot of people who do that, so we sort of fell into doing that for our clients.
Nice. I
But
love it. That's very, very cool. I mean, there's just really unique pieces on here that are just, different and just very, very artistic.
that's
And
my business partner, Lauren.
oh, yes, let's give a shout out to Lauren right here.
Lauren Moore.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And this must be your office right here.
It is, yes.
I love it. I
Where
love
I
it. This is where we're probably having the show actually with this backdrop right here. So
Yes,
very
it is.
cool. And then we'll go over to your other page, which is the California There's the Fresh Pointe Studios. Oh, I think I might have
And
actually
this is
pulled
kind
up.
of a mix because that's a California closet wall bed, and then we did the mural and styled the room after the wall bed was installed. So
Very cool.
that's sort of
Very
a
cool.
mix of.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. And then I meant to pull up this one here. I don't know if you can still see my screen where I'm pulling up California Closets Rebecca. I don't know if that's the right. I don't think that's the right one. So I might have to go to another screen right here. But tell me a little bit about what it was like to bring on a staff member. So I know that's what you did next. Then you have an assistant now too. So what has that been like to just have a little bit of help too? I bet that's been helpful.
Oh, do you mean Elia?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely part-time. She helps mostly with the faux lime wash stuff that we do, or like murals, because
Hmm.
she's an artist. She's also an aspiring musician,
Right.
very talented. Um, so yeah, she helps us like definitely on a very part-time basis because her true passion is music. So
Right.
um,
Right.
we're kind of like the extra money gig until she becomes a famous musician.
So how many staff do you have between California Closets and then Fresh Point Studio?
Oh, well, California Closets, I am a employee of California
You're
Closets.
right. So you just
So
do that and you design the rooms there. And then for
yeah.
Fresh Point Studio, how big is your staff?
So it's myself and Lauren Moore, my business partner, and then Elia, who helps us out.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So
small.
wow. That's a small, but it's mighty. And you've been doing it now for about 3 years. I'm trying to think of when the pandemic started.
Well, California Closets I've been doing for 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fresh Point Studio is like 2.5.
Wow. So has it been hard to split your time between the two, or how do you divide the
It can
time?
be challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think I I think I'm good at, like, I love batch working, so I kind of like I focus on, certain tasks all at the same, like I block time to do all of, like to focus on follow-up stuff for California Closets, or or block time to do Fresh Point Studio,
Mhm.
procuring furniture for a client. But I think the fact that I have a business partner for Fresh Point Studio is super helpful. So, we can kind of juggle, like if California Closets, if I have to like focus on that, she can kind of,
Pick up the load in what you're doing,
yeah.
for the Fresh Point Studio. Did you ever envision, like, one day when you were younger that this is kind of where how your life would turn out? I mean, everyone kind of thinks probably the family and the kids, but did you think that you'd be like an interior designer, an interior decorator?
No, no, for sure not.
No, no. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, like, I don't think I ever envisioned that I would be a Navy storyteller or a podcaster. I don't think that was ever something that I was thinking was going to be part of my future, but we sort of fall into our jobs sometimes, don't we?
Yeah. Well, what did you think? Or what did you want to do?
I remember I wanted to be a writer.
Oh yeah. No, I did know that. Yes.
Yeah. Remember I used to write all those journals and I
Yes.
thought I was going to be a writer. And I do write, but not prolifically and not in long books or anything along those lines. I'm much more into shorter, more concised social media posts, or now with the podcast as well. And it has definitely made me like a different kind of professional, especially the podcasting. You really have to think about things that you didn't think about when you were just talking with your friends, or whatever. Everything, like my ums and my ahs and my you knows and all those things I have to like think about, because I will hear myself on a podcast, or I'll hear these shows or a reel, and then I'll realize that I'm doing that. And so I speak differently because of it. And so it's been interesting to see that journey from because I've been doing this now 4 years, and I never thought that I would keep this up for as long as I have either.
It's funny that you talk about yes, because because I'm horrible at that, and my husband likes to remind me, Jim, because like when I would have to do presentations for like when I was in fashion, I would like run through things, and he's like, "You said like 50 times." Like, I
Right.
know, I can't help it.
But you're also not a professional speaker. This isn't something that you do, and this isn't what you're paid there to do. You're a designer. You're there, but you have to sell the design. And so
Yes.
presentation is about selling that design and being able to communicate that design. So that's why communications comes
And
in handy.
and I do notice that you speak differently, very eloquently, differently in a
Yeah.
good way,
Thank
but
you.
definitely I notice.
Yeah. It well, and it was because I kept hearing myself on these shows, and I really don't watch myself very much. Like I don't watch every single episode at all. I listen to the reels when my virtual assistant will play the reels back. I do that so that I can put together the post. But you do it so many times that you get to a place where you learn how to take a pause. And that was also part of what helped me as a speaker was being confident enough to take a pause and to think about my next thought and not fill it in with a or an or any of those other filler words. You just have to kind of look at somebody for a minute and then gather your thought.
Yeah.
And that is something I've had to work on a lot. But as I've done this more, it gets easier. And then I'm also talking to people who are even much better speakers than I am. And they, you can model what they're doing. And I think that's also helpful.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
so yeah, that's been what has really been helpful. But I'm really excited that we got a chance to do this because I know that you told some of your family members and they were probably like, "You're talking to Terry?"
No, 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 I told you, my dad was very excited. He's like, "You gotta talk about all these stories when you're grown up." I'm like, I don't know that I bring some of those things up.
So for those of you who are listening, yeah, I was sort of the instigator growing up. I was kind of the rebel. I think I've told you guys before that I was somewhat rebellious and I was always inching to get other people in trouble. And some people would, and then some people would just tell me to get lost, like Liz Bowling. She was like, "No, I'm not doing that. No."
I was always up for anything.
You were. You were, but
still am mostly.
and yeah, you are definitely, and you've always been such a positive and outgoing and just vibrant person, and I've always appreciated that about you, Rebecca, because I think that I allowed myself to get kind of stuck in the sump or stuck in my own self-pity, whereas you've always been that person that's always just looked at the bright side of things and always had a very optimistic attitude. And I don't know, like that's a good question. Like where do you think you got that optimism? Because you've always been very positive.
I don't know. Like it's just how I am. I guess I just see it as like because I love a challenge. So for me, it's like, okay, well, today, like this negative thing happens. Like, okay, what's the good part of it? Like, so it's almost like sort of like I don't know, like a challenge. Well, I mean, and I don't know. I think you know about this, but yeah. So, and this I think for me is what I think sometimes like maybe I'm too optimistic. But like when I had the back injury where I broke my back when I was
remember that
32, jumping from a waterfall in Grenada, and got a burst fracture in my L1 vertebrae in the middle of my back. And I just remember laying there, and we were down there because Jim and I were going to get married and on a boat and all this stuff. And I remember laying like in this gymnasium in Grenada on this bed and like on some kind of painkiller that was not legal in the US. And laying there, and I'm like, yeah, we're still going to get married. I literally was thinking in my head that we were still getting married in 3 days. And I just like broke my back. I'm like, yeah, we're still going to get married. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And obviously that did not happen.
Right, right.
or at that time. But
Sure, sure. But I think that's
yeah.
good. Like that's like a really great quality that you have is that you've just always been able to like see things as just challenges and things that you could overcome and things that you've never let things really get to you like I did. And I always admired that about you because I was always somebody that would, of course, I'd stew on it and ruminate, think about it a million times and I'm still somewhat like that even to this day. But I'm a lot better as I've gotten older. But you've always been that kind of person. And that's really inspiring for people to see that you don't have to be unhappy, that it's a choice. It is definitely a choice that we
For
make
sure.
every day to set our mood or to let our mood not be impacted by the negativity. And one of the things that you do too that I admire is that you don't do social media that much.
No, not I don't love it. I would rather have a actual conversation, be face to face. I value that a lot more, and the energy, especially like being a mom, having 2 kids, involved in all these activities, like the energy you have to put into social media, I'd rather put that into real people interactions.
Right.
So, which I know, like for business, it's helpful to be more active, but I don't know. I also think like word of mouth is very powerful. So
It is. It is. If you talk to most of the people that I know who have businesses, they will say that they get more from word of mouth than anything else. I mean,
yeah,
just because, I mean, being on social media is one thing, but being face to face with people and having and building those relationships and actually going out there and doing the work, that's what really gets you the business and gets you the clients and the success. So, what would you say as you've gone down this journey of owning your own business and being in this space that was very self-directed? What would you say are your biggest lessons that you've taken away?
well, actually, and I think Jim helps with this, and also my business partner Lauren. I mean, I am extremely driven, and I mean, I love my job, so I love to work, and I think there's other people in my life that I've learned that sometimes I need to slow down and um smell the roses, like take some time. Like I don't need to be productive all the time. And I think especially like in corporate, and in corporate, like if you have that personality, that's great because they
Oh, they'll take
they love
everything they
that.
can out of you. Yeah.
So um and I think I've realized also, like, my identity doesn't have to be, it's not determined by solely by my career. Like, that is not who I am. And I think that was something that I very much like, my identity to myself for so many years was very wrapped up in like my career and who I was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a design director at Land's End, or whatever my position was. It was very like tied into that, and probably a little too much. So I think now also that I do different things, I think it's more about like, okay, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, I'm these things, and like, and I usually become pretty like good friends with a lot of my clients. So it's like it's more about the relationships and less about like, I am a designer and this is my title.
Right. I feel the same way about podcasting. Like it's less about whether or not my show's going to monetize or how much views or downloads I get, but like the cool people I get to have on the show. And they bring me books and I get to read the books and then we talk about the books or whatever it is, their project or their business that they're working on. And I just love it. And it's so much fun when I go to a conference and I see people that have only just been a guest and I meet them in person. That just happened at the Military Influencer Conference last September. And it was so cool because all I'm doing is doing this show across a computer internet connection, but then to know that there's a person on the other end of these calls and to see them in person. And it was just really neat experience. And I think that's when you know you're doing something that you love, is when you have that feeling. And I definitely have that feeling from doing this show. And I've had that feeling in the past in the Navy too, on certain assignments, doing certain exercises, working with certain people. So I think that that's important. But yeah, balance is key, and being able to balance these things that we do in our professional lives with the things that we do in our personal lives is really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, what is your big projects now for 2025? Where are we going to see Rebecca at the end of 2025?
I don't know. I mean, there's both things in California. Well, we're starting something fun, and I have a few clients that are interested in this. For California Closets, we're doing this like marketing thing where it's like champagne and cupcakes, and I bring champagne and cupcakes to the home of, like, a client where we've done work, and they have a few friends over. But again, it's like more about like connecting and just kind of another fun way
I love it.
to meet new clients, and celebrate ones that I have relationships with,
And show off their home and show off your design.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And then Fresh Pointe Studio, we have a few projects coming up. One that's exciting that is kind of something we haven't done before, which again is exciting, is an Airbnb in Hocking Hills that we're working on. And then obviously some client homes that we're pretty excited about as well. And still doing the line wash painting and murals. I'm actually I'm doing a combo in my own home closet. Finally designed my own closet, and I'm painting a mural in there too. So
awesome. That's very, very cool. How do you structure your day from like all the different things? So is it just like, do you do everything like on your phone with like an appointment scheduler where you're just setting everything up, or how do you do that?
Yes, we have on California Closets, we have like a calendar, and I like block my time. Even my personal, like I'll put like, pick up kids at whatever, like, so it's all most of it is all in that one place. Yes.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because since you have basically two businesses, and so you're probably constantly like, trying to make sure, and the kids, and so you're trying to like put everything in the places where it best fits. So, well, I'm excited for you, Rebecca. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about, or anything that I didn't ask you about when it comes to your business, or when it comes to some of the things that and the projects that you've been working on. Is there anything that we didn't cover?
I do want to say, because my husband just came out with his first book.
Yes.
It is called Isaac Unknown by James McFadden. You can get it on Amazon. It is a like kind of dark comedy fantasy thriller, I guess is kind of the genre. But he obviously has been wanting to become a writer for a very long time. That's his passion. And I think he's very talented. The book cover, I think, turned out amazing.
Can
you show that?
That's what I'm about to do. That's what I'm working on right now. As we're talking through the show, I'm like, ooh, I need to like go to this here. So hold on, just give me a minute. I'm gonna go to. Am I on the screen now? I don't think so. I don't think.
No, I just see you.
Yes. Okay, you just see me. There we go. So share screen. Boom. Gonna go here. And then I got to move my camera out of your way again. So share. There we go. Right here. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you go, I'm going to try to see if I can just go to the image and just click it. There we go. So that is the cover, Isaac Unknown. How did the cover art even come about? It's so beautiful.
It's great. It took a long time because his book was originally supposed to come out in August of last year. And because they did so much work on the cover, it just got released January 16th. So yeah, they went through actually a few different artists to find someone who was this talented to really nail it. Yeah, I think they did an amazing job. And if you can't tell, it's actually a tarot card that is around him that's like on fire, and it's purposely, Isaac Unknown, so you can't really see his face because he's mysterious. But
very cool. And you can buy it on Amazon. It already has 5.0 stars. So good job, Jim. And here we go. Here's some of the notes here from the publisher right here. And yeah, I'm that's so exciting. Look, he's got some reviews up already. So very, very nice. I love it. Love it. Love it. Anything else that you'd like to share while we're on the call?
I mean, really, I think this is a lot of fun, and I think it's so great that we keep in contact.
Me too.
Because I think, I'm so happy that you kind of found your path too. And, I don't know, like, I think, yeah, I'm very happy for you. And
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't always think that this was going to wind up happening. There was definitely some periods in my life where I didn't think that this happiness was even possible, but it actually is. So
yeah,
definitely very grateful for the life. So that I think that's one of the things that we were talking about that time at breakfast when we saw each other just this past January. We're like, wow, did we ever think that we both like really end up in like such good spots in life and so happy? I certainly didn't always think that for myself. So I'm very satisfied and very content with the way things have turned out. So yeah, it was a pleasure having you on, Rebecca. Thank you so much for coming on the Stories of Service podcast and being my first friends, family, and returning guest podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, no, I had a blast. This is really fun. And
awesome.
Yeah, so great to connect.
Awesome. Well, I will meet you backstage. I'm going to go full screen and just give a quick closeout, but thank you again. And thank you all for joining us on this first episode. We will do more of these kinds of episodes. They won't always be every week because sometimes I just can't do 2 shows a week, but it's really wonderful to see returning guests and to see some of the people that made me who I am today and bring them to the Stories of Service podcast. So as I always say to close out these calls, please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and bye-bye now.